This slackline is less than 2 inches wide, over 170 feet long, and hundreds of feet above a canyon floor. It may be terrifying for the most of us, but for this woman, it's exactly where she wants to be.
My name is Faith Dickey. I'm a professional slackliner, highliner, and guide.
Even getting over a fear of heights, it's not nearly as easy as it seems. Every detail has to be considered. Speed of the wind, placement of her feet, tension on the rope. It all matters if you want to make it to the other side.
When I'm on the highline, I often make micro adjustments with my wrists. Sometimes I really focus on what my fingers feel like, how the wind feels as it's blowing past them. When I actually walked a line successfully, it was sort of like seeing color for the first time. I mean, my mind was blown. I actually got all these crazy muscles in my feet that most people don't have. These are all balance muscles that we just don't get to use in everyday life.
That's not the only thing that makes her different from the rest of us. She's built a life in this death-defying world, breaking countless world records. Faith became the first woman to cross a highline over 100 meters long in 2014, and she also broke the record for longest free solo in 2012 in the Czech Republic, which means she did it without a safety harness.
I was the reigning world record for women in the sport of slacklining and highlining for about 6 years, undefeated. It was pretty incredible. I just was so focused and so obsessed. I just wanted to accomplish things for myself and on accident set world records, and on accident became a pioneer. If I look down on a highline, I'm seeing everything all at once. My feet, the exposure below me. It feels impossible to focus on one tiny thing. It's just kind of a mind-blowing overload of information for my brain. I love that feeling. When I'm standing on a highline out in space, so much of the experience is about the sky and just how big the sky is above me.
This kind of balance and control didn't just come naturally. Faith had to fall a lot to get to where she is today.
The first time you set foot on a slackline, it's really crazy how wobbly the line is. It's really hard to commit to actually putting your full body weight on there because you feel like you're just going to get thrown off. There's so much falling involved. And I think you really have to get over that hump of failure to keep going, to see your success. I fought so hard. I fell so many times. I fell over and over and over again. I was black and blue, covered in bruises. And then finally, I somehow just locked in, stood up on that highline, and step by step, made it across.
People have been testing the limits of their balance for centuries, on beams, tight ropes, and more. It's a tradition that spans continents and cultures, from circus performers to Olympic athletes. But in the 1980s, a group of rock climbers found a new way to pass the time when they started balancing on stretchy ropes and webbing. And that's when slacklining was born. While tightrope walking is usually done on a high-tension metal wire, a slackline has more give and more bounce, almost like a narrow trampoline. The result is an extremely dynamic form of balanced movement. And just like every part of the sport, details really matter. How Faith sets up the line can mean the difference between life and death.
So if I'm setting up a highline for the first time in an area that's never had a highline before, where there's nothing to anchor off of, like a boulder or a tree, I'll be placing bolts in the rock. I equalize off of at least 3 different points. Slacklines are typically made from nylon, polyester. I use steel carabiners. I try to use all steel in my system. I have a special device called a line grip, which has 2 rubber plates that grip the slackline so I can pull it and tighten it. The other thing that's really important when rigging highlines is lots of padding. One of the biggest risks for breaking a line is rock abrasion. I have these kind of Velcro sleeves that I wrap all the rope and all the slackline with on the edges. I only want to go highlining with people I trust. If my friend is on the other side of the canyon building an anchor, I want to know that they're going to do it safely. I want to live a long life. I don't have a death wish. It's really about understanding what the risks are, mitigating them, and then accepting that there's risk involved.
There's a science to this stuff. A short slackline doesn't have much movement because the anchor points are close together. Because of that, the line doesn't have much give, and each step lands in a similar place to the last. Just one step in front of the other. It's far harder to stay balanced on a longer line that has sag and sway. It means you're going downhill and then uphill while the wind is moving you.
When a line gets longer and heavier, it's much harder to walk. The line is tightest at the anchor where it's attached to the rock or the tree, but as you walk, that tension gets looser and looser, and the middle is the loosest part. The hardest part of a high line is at the very end, because you're walking uphill. So your feet are slipping a little bit, and it's much more exertion, and all you want to do is get on that rock.
Because of the dynamic nature of the slackline, each step is different from the last. Faith's approach to this challenge means being in precise control of her body.
I'm trying to keep my heartbeat very slow and calm on the high line. I can feel each little twitch in my finger as I find equilibrium. I can feel exactly what it's like when the sole of my foot touches the line and rolls forward.
But Faith didn't always plan on being a highlining master. She wanted to go into fashion, but life had a different plan for her.
When I was 18, I fell asleep driving my car and flipped it over. The car crash was terrifying, and it made me do a 180 in my life. I suddenly was faced with, who am I and how do I want to live my life? I needed to take some time to really figure all that out. And slacklining was a catalyst.
Catalyst is an understatement. Her mental toughness and love for the sport quickly made her a star. Soon came the magazine articles, sponsorships, and offers to travel the world, teaching and establishing new routes.
I kind of inadvertently became a pioneer in the sport, especially for women. And along with some people who I was on a team with, we established so many lines around the world. We took slacklining and highlining to places where it never existed before.
It takes years of experience to stand on a highline and quickly tune your body to match the ever-changing character of the line.
I might shift my hips. I'm trying to keep my back straight. Our vision is super important. You go where you look. If I want to make it more challenging, I look around. But if I want to be as concentrated and stable as possible, I focus on one point, and that's where I walk to. As my foot comes down and makes contact with the slackline, there's a specific place I put it. I don't wrap my toes around it. It's really just about centering my foot on top of it. If I make contact with the line a little bit to the side, there's the potential that when I weight that foot, I'm going to slip off the line. And so I have to adjust immediately. The other part that's super key is breathing. I like to think of my breath traveling through my body. I imagine it traveling through my arms and out of my fingertips, traveling through my torso, down into my feet, into the line. It's how I calm my body down.
It's not just about winning world titles and having all the right gear. Faith models her life on the lessons she's learned from slacklining and highlining.
I think in the moment that you're engaging with fear of death, it becomes really clear what's important in life. Being on a high line and really engaging with that fear step by step, it taught me that I can live beyond that fear. It doesn't have to stop me from accomplishing the things I want to do.